Going live, you're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Super happy to be here with you for Magical Entrepreneur, part 1600. We are how many months in now? We did all of November, December, January, February, March, April. So we're officially in month 7. And I really want to say I appreciate those of you who had a chance to respond to my post in your Facebook group, kind of asking what your questions were for tonight, because I really wanted to customize tonight's class. You know, the session 1 of every month is always kind of the nuts and bolts, the academic, the theoretical, because session 2 gets more into the magic and the energy. And then session 3 is how do we apply it, right? How do we integrate that? How do we make it personal to us and the work that we're doing in the world? So I definitely read all of the comments that were there. You're welcome to keep commenting on my post because it will help inform what we do next session. And also I'm building ideas for the remaining months that we have together. So thank you. I'm so happy to see you. So welcome in, everybody. Thank you to Circe and Vanya and to all of you for being here. I'm very grateful to you. We have 4 pages of notes tonight, which means I might actually get through everything. But I do want to leave a lot of time and space for Q&A. So what I did for tonight's class to prepare is I talked to 3 of my friends who are, you know, I hesitate with the word influencer, right? Because it sounds like, I think it's almost like if you call yourself an influencer, you're not an influencer. Like people who are influencers wouldn't call themselves that, but you would call these people influencers. Some of them you know. So their identity will remain mysterious. I'm not going to say who said what, but I asked them, you know, we had conversations in preparation and I was like, so what do you think you did? What was your secret sauce? I think I know kind of what mine was in terms of social media. You know, what would you say yours was? And they shared. And so in your notes tonight are pieces of feedback and advice from people that I trust, people that you admire, who have built successful online presences. And I thought it was kind of cool. You know what I mean? In a way, it's like you getting a little bit of like behind the scenes interview material that you know, they knew what I was doing with what they shared, but they knew it wasn't going to be personalized. But, you know, they probably wouldn't be as forthcoming if it was a conversation, a public conversation. So it's kind of cool. I think you're going to enjoy it. I do want to say one thing. So you probably found out because Circe posted in your group. Sage Goddess is having a moving sale because we are moving to a new space. As I've been trying to diplomatically say, I have a weird landlord. Yeah, it always looks like I'm sucking on a lemon, and I'm not sucking on a lemon, but I do have a weird landlord. So I would like to have a new home that isn't with him. So that's what we're working toward. And I would like to have a smaller home, kind of, that's a little more intimate for my team. The team we have really likes each other and we want to be in a smaller space together. So we have decided to move less things to our new space. So we are taking 75% off at sagegoddess.com. And that is public information only to my students right now. That expires for you, that code MAGIC75, which, by the way, since we're talking about entrepreneurship, that's not ever going to happen again. Okay. That's not like, oh, come Christmas time, will she do 75%? No, this is literally so that my team and I don't have to move as much to our new home. Okay. So Lena says she's been holiday shopping. I would legit do that. Will I have sales at the holidays? Sure. Are they going to be 75%? No. So I would definitely, if there's been things at sagegoddess.com, this is below my cost. This is below wholesale pricing. So it's a little bit nuts, but it is kind of cool for me to see these things that I love, because all of these things are things that I chose and made with a lot of intention. Right? There's a lot of energy there. It's cool to see it going to people I trust, who are going to be really happy with it, and it's affordable for you. So, you know, no harm, no foul. If you're placing multiple orders, I would just encourage you to do that. You have until noon tomorrow. And if this is news to you, because I haven't shared yet with the entrepreneur group, the Wax and Wayne group knows. I went live in Gem Journey today. I'm going to let Apothecary know that you guys have till noon tomorrow with that code. Okay. I know. And if you can't shop, don't worry, right? I mean, this is not like a sales pressure thing. It's actually an excitement thing. Like, holy shit. I don't have none of the companies I shop with have ever done 75% off. But it's not because we're going out of business or anything like that. And please don't feel pressured. Like, let people have what they need. But I would feel remiss if I didn't mention it tonight, because you only have like less than 24 hours to have that exclusive access, just you guys, to whatever you want on the website. Okay. So enjoy. If you're not shopping, enjoy. It's great. I know a lot of people had, carts that they set aside, but it's just times are tight. So now they're able to go in and actually get something they really wanted at a price they can afford, which makes my heart happy. Yeah. Yeah. Marsha's like, I feel like a kid in a candy store. How do you join Apothecary? If you continued this year, you're a little behind. So Circe will catch you up to date. And it's a great time to join, because tomorrow's session 2 of my first month back. So you haven't missed too much. And I'm going to be leading you through a journey with Circe tomorrow night, which I'm really excited about. Not this Circe, but the Circe. Circe, human Circe, goddess Circe. So we'll talk about all these things. Okay. So are you ready for class tonight? I want to dive right in. So tonight's a hybrid of what I was planning to teach, what questions you had, and then what my friends shared. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot in your notes. I tried to flesh out your notes as much as I could. There is going to be stuff I share tonight that's not in your notes. I call it in teaching, taking it off the page, right? So I have my notes, but then I'm going to tell stories and kind of riff on things. So the broad topic is building a virtual community, but it's much more than that. And I want to start by saying, in preparation for tonight, these classes take a lot of time. And one of the things I do with every class is I go into the academic and university databases that I have access to, and see what they're teaching in business school about things, right? What's the current academic research on these topics? And I will tell you, I spent a couple of hours doing that on leading in virtual environments, leading virtual teams. I did all kinds of keyword searches, and I came up pretty much empty, which makes me want to go back and teach business school again, because they need me. I mean, it's really dry. It's dumb stuff like, oh, if you're leading a virtual team, have regular check-ins. It's like, really? Like, that's the best we've got? So it was really bare bones. It was very dry. It was not inspiring. It was not helpful. And then I went into all of the research on virtual leadership. So what's the difference between leading a group in person and leading a group that's virtual? And I thought, oh, post-COVID, 2020, 2021, we're going to have plenty of research, right? Because everybody went offline. So there's going to be just a ton of research. And I was like, there is no research. I mean, there is research, but again, it's saying very basic things like have regular check-ins, understand people's communication differences, build trust. And it's like, and then you read into the articles, right? And it's like, okay, so how do I build trust? How do I establish communication with people? What's the cadence and the rhythm, and what are the priorities, right, for people who are virtual? It was like nothing. So what I want to tell you is, even if I was in an academic classroom right now, I wouldn't have a lot to share on the topic if I didn't have practical experience and really smart friends who are very successful, who were willing to share their insights with me. So I hope tonight is really exciting for you. Thank you. I don't want to be president, but I did at one point in my life want to go into public service, and now I'm like, there's no way. So my friends are in online retail spaces and online learning spaces. So they teach virtual classes, they lead virtual workshops, and they sell virtual products. Is that helpful? Yeah, so it's not, and the one who sells virtual products is like me, where she does a lot of different things, and she sells a lot of different things. And then the one who leads retreats is kind of known for that, and she does in-person and also virtual retreats. And then the one who teaches classes is kind of the same as me. She has a lot of different diverse tools. So, and again, these are, relatively recognizable people. And these are also people my age. So these are all the three people in particular are women in their 50s and 60s, still working. So these are not folks who are retired. One of them is old enough to retire, and we had a really fun conversation about how she feels like she can't ever retire. And she was like, haha, like you'll get there too. And then you'll be like, oh, but what am I going to do? Cause she's like always been busy. And so now she doesn't really know, how to unwind that clock. So yeah, so they're diverse people. Only one of them I would say is like kind of metaphysical. The other two are not. So I thought that would be interesting too, because I didn't want to just go to metaphysical people and get metaphysical perspectives. I wanted to have people who had, industry experience, corporate experience. So is that helpful? I just don't want to, if I give you any more information, it's going to start to be, to some of you, kind of obvious, at least one or two of the people who are relatively well known. So I will leave it at that. But these are all people who have made more than $1 million, right, in their domain areas of expertise. So not that matters, but I would say, okay, well, these are people who qualify to most people as having been successful as entrepreneurs. One of them is a single mom who really struggled in the early part of her life and really became who she was in the later part of her life, 40s, 50s, 60s. So these are people who, one of them has really strong, 1.5 of them has really strong academic training, and the other, one does, and one kind of has academic training. So anyway, they kind of, for me, that's a spectrum. Most of my friends who are entrepreneurs are women. So I didn't have a huge pool of men to draw from. So I don't have as much diversity when it comes to that category. But there is some racial ethnic diversity in the group that I spoke to. So that helps me to narrow it down. And yeah, these are not necessarily metaphysical folks. Okay. And the one thing I'm going to say is, and I'm going to, again, I always tell you this, I might say stuff tonight that you don't like. Sorry. But it may be stuff that you need to hear. I don't consider myself a metaphysical folk. I don't think you can necessarily. I think one of the things that they echoed, and I would say to you too, is don't niche yourself too much. You can niche yourself to death, right? Like there is really something to be said for, even if you are metaphysically inclined, I think I have to be a little bit of a chameleon and be able to function in non-metaphysical spaces in order to be respected and appreciated, right? So if I just wear that costume all the time, I'm going to be discounted or not heard or underestimated. I had a really important conversation today with my literary agent because I'm contemplating a couple of new projects. And, he's a hardcore, what we call big five, right? He works with my publisher, Penguin Random House, and the other big houses. And he's an attorney and very successful literary agent who works all over the country. And like, we're talking about my book ideas, right? That he's super into. So it was a yes from him today, which is very exciting. But, if I came in like all hot, like just weird metaphysical, he wouldn't take me seriously. Like he works in my space, but he also is an agent for a lot of people who aren't in my space. And I can't just roll in with airy fairy stuff. I've got to be buttoned up. I fall back on my credentials, right? I'm always reminding him, like, remember, I have this background and this training. So does that make sense? Like, I think even if you're purely metaphysical, I think there has to be a side to you or a facet of your diamond where you don't just fall back on that. If your goal is to be successful outside of just your space. And I don't, nobody can define that for you. For me as an author, it was always my goal to be published by one of the big five publishing houses. And so they don't publish people who are just purely metaphysical. You have to have something else to bring to the table. or they're not going to do it. They don't have to, right? If you want to be purely metaphysical, then the best bets for you are self-publishing, which you can totally do through Substack. Amazon has an arm, a self-publishing arm too, and I can speak to that a little bit. I haven't self-published just because I've had the benefit of being able to be published, and I like working with publishers. I've really enjoyed both of them. Fairwinds Press and Penguin have been really great experiences for me. Very fair in terms of their royalty structure and their publicity, plans and all the things that they do. So yeah, and Millie can be Millie is my Greek soul sister in our community, and she's an editor and can very much help you with publishing ideas and strategies and techniques, self-publishing. So I think that's so generous of you to offer that in the feed, and she's someone you can really trust and rely on. So yes, thank you. Love you. See you soon. So let me bring us back to my notes, because I'm going to keep anchoring myself here, and then we'll go off the page and come back and go off the page and come back. Okay. So Emalea says, wait. I feel like the current business coaching advice is to niche down to find the ideal clients. I guess I see my coaching as a bridge of practical and magical strategies. So what's the difference? Okay. I'm going to use the word funnel. Okay. And it's not my favorite word. It's not my favorite concept in marketing, but it's a reality. Okay. And I may be at odds. I'm usually at odds with coaches, because coaches will say, well, do this, do that. And then I'll have my clients come back and say, well, my coach told me to do this, and you're saying to do that. And the big statement of tonight that you're going to hear me say 15 different times, but my friends echoed it. All three of them said the same thing without me saying it first. Okay. My experience has been that everything people tell me to do, does not work. Okay. It just doesn't work. So if you could read every marketing strategy book, and you could have a great bachelor's degree in marketing, and even the most recent rebirth of SG, I had, someone close to me come in and try to guide the process. And it's just like, if it works over here for everybody else, it's not going to work in my world. And I just know that. So I don't even do it. I'm just like, I can't. The minute we do traditional marketing, my entire community checks out, and they will unfollow, unlike, everything they can to get away from that. It is such a turnoff, buzzkill. They have a radar for it, or antenna for it. They can smell it. And it was hard to watch, because my ex-business partner indulged all of the things that don't work for 6 or 9 months. And all I could do was watch it. And it was kind of nauseating, So I'm often at odds with coaches. Now, I think coaches are trained, because I was a coach. Okay. Coaches are trained. We aim for the median. Okay. Our goal as coaches is to hit the middle. Okay. We want to hit the bell curve, because we want to help the most people. So we want to talk about what works for the majority. I'm just an outlier. But my friends are too. Okay. They both said, the three of them said, we're all the anomalies, right? We're all the exceptions to the rule. So if you're an outlier like me, then you're going to get advice, and it's going to fall flat, and you're going to be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then you're going to go back and go, I should have listened to my intuition. For me. Okay. So if traditional advice is get as niche as you can, really target your audience, right? You'll spend less on advertising, which is true, by the way. The more you can target your audience. So instead of saying women ages 30 to 60, if you could say women ages 45 to 50, wow, right? That's a smaller group to reach. Your ads will go farther, all of that. But my audience isn't that. My audience is literally 30 to 70. So if I take that advice to really narrow, or if you say, well, people interested in tarot cards and crystals and, again, it's going to help you with advertising. It's going to help you with targeting. It's going to help you with audience and all these things. And it's great if you can, but again, I can't. I have a lot of people who want to see my content that aren't interested in those things. So I'm an outlier. right? I have to, if I'm really going to reach my people, I can't niche it too much, because I have some people who like me because I'm not ultra metaphysical. I'm also kind of funny and a little bit like edgy and kind of academic-y, and they don't follow that paradigm, right? So, and I want to reach them because I don't just have a metaphysical audience. So on the one hand, someone guiding you to super niche yourself is correct. They are. They're actually going to save you money. They're going to save you time, and you are more likely to reach those people if you target and focus and narrow, right? People only in the United States, people in Northern United States, people who are awake from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., people who have regular bowel movements, like whatever it is, right? You're more likely to reach that group. But when I narrow my focus like that, then I have a whole bunch of people who say, I didn't see anything you posted. Okay. So yeah. And to, to your point, you were in your mid to late 20s when you found SG, right? So again, you're even in the bell curve that's kind of like identifiable for me, you're still on the edges. I have clients in their 80s. I have clients in their 20s. I have clients who are still teenagers who have their own money and shop and got turned on to it by one of their friends in high school, right? Like that all happens, right? So I'm being a little extreme, but so, but I'm glad you raised it, because I want you to know all these things. Tonight, my job is to kind of lay out the buffet for you, right? And have you go, that works for me, that doesn't. I think she's right on that, but I'm not sure about this. And you're not me, right? And you're not the people I'm sharing information about. So this is what I wish someone had done for me. The whole point of teaching this class to you this year is like, I just wish somebody had just told me the straight shit and like let me sort it out for myself. Because I'm going to take what works for me and I'm going to ignore what doesn't, but I'm going to learn something new. So that's my goal. Some of it will be relevant and some of it will not be relevant. And my job is to not lead you astray, but also not to give you like what anybody else is going to give you. Okay. So I laid this out in the clearest way my, neurodivergent brain could do it for you, because we're covering a lot of territory tonight. Like you'll see at the end of it, like, ooh, we went all the way around 10 different ways. So, okay. The platforms, so we're talking about virtual experiences tonight, but we're talking about a lot more than that too. It's just that the virtual is kind of how we reach people right now. Platforms are where you do that. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, any other platforms that you use. I don't use a lot of them, like X, right? Meta is my arena, right? So I am on Facebook and Instagram only with SG and with Lair. I'm going to tell you why that is, and it's not based on anybody's guidance or strategy. But interestingly enough, the people that I spoke to primarily live there too. They don't do a whole bunch on TikTok, a little bit. One of them more than I do. Managing energy and leading others is how you do it. So the platforms are where you do your leadership. And then the how you do it is through how you manage people and how you lead yourself and lead others. The content, what you share with people, and your cadence, how often you share it, is the what, right? So what do you do? Well, I am a content creator. I make this content. I have these products and I teach these classes, right? So that's your what, and I teach them 3 days a week. Your audience is who you do it for. So who am I in service to, right? So these are the people who consume my products, consume my classes, watch my content, participate in my communities. That's your audience. And then your craft is your why, right? I'm going to talk about B statements tonight because this is going back to my own training. But like what you're about is your why. And so my craft is teaching. And then what I deliver through that craft, right? What I teach is also part of my why. So it all starts there. And I'm going to give you kind of an order of operations tonight for how to think about these things and kind of parse them out. But you can't be successful without this equation. So what I said is the key to virtual success is consistency. And my friends echoed this. Let me say it again. The key to virtual success is consistency. All of us talked about examples. A couple of them were examples of people that we both knew, where somebody starts hot, they're launching this thing, here it is, they're around all the time, they're building great content, and then all of a sudden you realize, I haven't seen them in a week. I haven't seen them in a month. What happened to them? And you go to their account, and the last thing they posted was 4 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, right? That is the norm, right? Is people start and they get tired because they don't build a sustainable plan. And the number one thing that undermines anyone's success, this is an agreement from the four of us, okay, who have something to say on the topic because we've been successful. The number one thing we've seen is inconsistency. They start what they can't finish. And my mom used to call it biting off more than you can chew. And I do think there's something to it. Like, don't bite off, right, more than you can chew. And it's no harm, no foul. Like, Lauren saying I did that. But it's just when we start out, because we're super excited and we have a lot of passion and enthusiasm, we feel like we have more bandwidth than we actually do. So we're like, yep, every day at 9 a.m., I'm going to go live with my quote of the day. And after the first 5 days, you're like, every day at 9 a.m.? And it's like, yeah. I mean, unless you don't want to do that. And then you're like, well, what about 3 days a week at 9 a.m.? And it's like, okay. And then you're like, how about no days a week at 9 a.m.? And I'm like, well, but that's going to lead you down a path that you probably don't want, right? So yeah. So social media, to Millie's point, is a full-time job. Except if you don't want it to be a full-time job, you're the one who has to name what that looks like for you. And as I'm going to share with you tonight, and again, this was a point where we were all in agreement, you decide, right? If you want to be live once a week, if you want to teach once a week, if you want to teach 8 times a month, if you want to teach only after 3 p.m., if you know that your community's online in the evening, or you're just a night owl and that's when you're at your best, you start there. It starts with you, because if you can't maintain something, you're not going to be successful. But when I say this, right? So yes, create very realistic goals for yourself that acknowledge who you are. I'm not a morning person. I'm just not. I'm not going to be next year. I wasn't when I was 17. I'm not going to be when I'm 80. I'm not going to be a morning person. I'm also not a super duper late night person, because I like to sleep. I function best when I have 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and I'm a good sleeper. So I'm not going to be online after midnight, and I'm probably not going to be online before 10 a.m. I mean, just being realistic, legit, especially as I get older, like, that's not going to happen for me. So if I were to say every morning at 7:30 a.m., I'm going to be live on YouTube with a message for you, I would fail within 48 hours, right? I mean, absolute fail, done. She's offline. I went to hell in a handbasket really fast. I'm not going to set myself up for that, right? I'm also not a every single day person. I need a break, right? If I'm on for 4 days, I need 1 day off, just to kind of collect myself. It's a lot of energy. Like I said, if I teach a 2-hour class, you better believe 2 to 3 hours went into that to prepare it. And if I'm doing 3 or 4 of those in a row, that's already almost a full-time job, right? And that's not nearly the scope of my responsibilities. I manage 2 businesses, I manage 2 teams, I'm moving, you know what I mean? So I have to really watch my schedule and think about my stamina and what's realistic for me, because if I'm not rested, I'm not going to teach you well, right? Like, I really try to come to these classes fully prepared, really present, right? Not distracted. Because I want you to feel like my heart's in it, and my heart is in it. And but I can't just tell you that. I have to show you that, right? Through showing up and being ready and having thoughtfully considered your questions, and then thinking about not just what I'm doing today, but how it fits into the bigger picture, right? And so I'm telling you all of this, but if we weren't having this class, you would judge that based on your experience. And every time someone continues in a class with you, they're investing. in that time with you. And that's time they could spend somewhere else. That's money they could spend somewhere else. So that's something to take really, really seriously. And I think, it's better to under promise and over deliver than over promise and under deliver. Does that make sense? Yeah, and sometimes you're not going to feel well, and sometimes you're tired. And I'm a single mom of two teenagers. Like bless my ex-husband. He doesn't parent, right? Like I am literally like I am their food, their water, their shelter, like I am the parent for both of my kids. So like that is, and they're teenagers. My son just turned 18, but still lives with me, right? So I am it, right? If there's food in the house, it's because I brought the food in. If they are ready for, my son in his graduation and cap and gown, and did I do the things? And then baseball banquet, and did I send the pictures for the slideshow, which was due on Friday? And like, just, all of the things. That's me. So do I have help? I sure do. But I don't have, probably the help I need. So I have lists about lists. I have a personal list and I have a work list. I have an SG list. I have a Lair list. I have a list for the other things in case I forget the list, right? Because I'm going through menopause. So anyway, I'm not sharing all of this to garner your sympathy, but I'm sharing all this to tell you your life is crazy too, right? You may not have young children that you're single parenting, but you may have parents who are ill, or you may have really young children, right? Like at least mine are self-sufficient, right? So you may have like other things that I can't even think about, or you may have a partner who supports you, but they're not well, or they are, out on disability or whatever it is, right? So everybody in their life has, exigent circumstances, has things beyond the scope of their normal roles and responsibilities that people don't see. And so I think for you, it's about being really realistic with yourself. And this is where I can't teach you how to know yourself, and I think it comes with age. Because I think even in my 40s, I was still had a little bit of like superwoman complex. Like I can do it. I can, and then you get realistic, like, well, there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only 7 days in a week. I'm achy and breaky, right? and I need to take breaks and have snacks. Almost like I'm in kindergarten, right? So all of those things are realistic and important, right? Because at the end of the day, what all four of us agreed upon, by the way, one of the other things we agreed upon is you really matter. Your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, you really matter. And if you don't matter to yourself, it's like high time for that to be the case, right? So sometimes you need a day off just because you're overwhelmed and you don't even know why. And there has to be space and time for you to take that. Sometimes you need to go and have spiritual experiences, or take time out of your week for therapy or whatever it is, just for you, right? Spending time with your friends and your loved ones is not a side hustle, right? I mean, that's actually what we're here to do. So yeah, Millie says I've had to put reminders on my phone to remember to eat. Linda says it took me until I was 55 to really understand how much I wanted to work, right? So if you start with that, right, like realistically, what amount of time are you able and willing to dedicate to your professional goals? And you say, okay, you know what, realistically, maybe it's 6 hours a day that I want to dedicate total, right? That tells me kind of everything I need to know. Because I'm going to start asking you things like, okay, do you want to work like 6 hours a day, 5 days a week? Do you want to do 30 hours a day, but like crunch it into 2 or 3 days and then have like 4 days off? Do you want to like work a non-traditional schedule where you're more like 12 to 6, 2 to 8, 4 to 10? You know what I mean? Like, and I just think asking and answering all of those questions is really important, right? And then I've had to figure out, to your point, like, so what do I need now that I'm not co-parenting, right? Like what, realistically, what does that adjustment look like? Right. And then there's also other considerations, right? So if you're a single provider financially, like I am, like, you also have to make sure that you can take care of your kids. So it may mean that you have to work more then you're used to working, or certainly in my case, like more of what I earn goes to them, right? So, and I have a child who has special health needs, right? Has to go to specialists and all those things. So anyway, these are all things to consider. So the questions guiding today from you guys are, and I'm going to read these to you. And what I'm going to say is, because we could go the next hour and 15 minutes and talk about one of these. They're so juicy and rich. But then on the next page is all the stuff from my friends. So I kind of want you to drive a little bit. Like if there's something on this question list that you want to double click on, I think that's really helpful. But these were from you guys. Okay. Number one is, how do you lead without getting pulled into drama and politics? How do you do that, especially virtually, right? Because the reality is most people don't want you, unless your job is as like a news reporter or anchor or analyst, right? Most people don't really want you to get pulled into drama and politics, right? I always say stay in your lane. So, and that's not my lane. So I don't, by definition, I don't have to do that. And I don't also enjoy it, right? Because I can't, my job is to somehow find a middle ground in the work that I do all the time. So I don't like to get pulled over here. I don't like to get pulled over there. The second topic that came up that you guys were interested in is, how do you balance authenticity and professionalism? Being totally who I am, and then also being who people need me to be or expect me to be for the context, right? So Christina's saying, that she has to navigate politics at her day job. Teresa says boundaries are important, right? So, and this goes to boundaries, right? This goes to the subject of, what is my lane? And then how do I stay there? How do I know if I'm out of my lane? If I'm going to go out of my lane, why am I going to go out of my lane, right? And then in order to be me, do I have to talk about those things in order to be authentic? And then if I'm trying to be professional and authentic, like, how do I know if I'm doing that correctly? And the answer is usually, we know when we're off task or out of our lane by the feedback that we get, right? And then I wanted to say, in the context of this, I taught public speaking, and I also took a public speaking seminar that was required in my doctoral program, because most of us were going on to be in public service or to be educational leaders, and we were going to have to be speaking in front of big crowds. So we can certainly talk about all of that, and that may be something that you even want to spend some time exploring in future months. Is it's like, what are the basics of presenting yourself in a compelling way on camera or in front of an audience, right? I certainly have strategies and techniques and things I can teach you and share with you that are pretty tried and true. I'm lucky because for me, it's a comfort zone, right? But I've been talking in front of people since I was young. I'm a Leo, and kind of we gravitate toward that, right? So, but if it's not a comfort zone, it's like the scariest thing ever, right? To get up and speak in front of groups or to present what you want to present. And then, like, again, we're always going to have these kind of weird conversations. You don't just want to get in front of people. My friends agreed with this, by the way. You don't just want to get in front of people. You want them to not keep scrolling because you suck, right? Like, and we all laugh because we're all in front of people all the time. But this was a universal point for us too. Like, my goal, if I'm leading a full moon ceremony, is that you're going to log on and stay with me for 60 minutes. I can't even sometimes focus on like a conversation with my child for 60 minutes, right? Like, I have severe attention deficit disorder. So when people stay with me for 60 whole minutes, I'm always like, wow, like they didn't log off. This didn't suck so bad that they ran out of the room or the building, right? I mean, for me, if I stay with you for 15 minutes, that's kind of a big compliment. So anyway, we can certainly talk about strategies and techniques. I have very specific things that I will tell you if you want to talk about this. Okay, so just hold that thought while I give you the rest of the questions. How do you attract clients? How do you become successful on Instagram and Facebook? How do you manage your energy, and how do you maintain your energy as a leader? How do you support the people you lead without sacrificing yourself in the process? These are your questions, right? These are great questions. What equipment do I need? Like, what kind of microphone or a ring light, or, is there a link to Amazon, right? So, because I'm going online and I'm like searching all these things, and like, can you just save me the time and the trouble? Like, how do I create a logo? Like, where would I go to build a website, right? How do I self-publish if I can't get a publishing contract or a deal, right? Which is kind of tough. How do I start that process? And then how do I show up on camera in a way that maintains people's interest for more than 30 seconds, right? Before they just decide that you're not interesting and they keep scrolling. So if there's anything in that, I'm gonna go back and just touch on some different points. But if there's anything in that list of questions where you're like, wow, that's really juicy, please don't forget to talk about that. These are all areas of focus for us. So Christina said, I'm a theater major, so I usually just revert to my acting classes when I need to speak in front of groups. And she says, I have two characters, professional Christina and then unfiltered class clown Chris. Let me get Paxton. He's not going to stop till he gets enough. Hold on. All right, sir. On your best behaviors, gentlemen. I know. You love it when I teach. I know. Sorry. Zoe and Nick help, but at the end of the day, they just want to be in here with me. So, okay. Okay. So Chase said, it's always felt natural talking to a crowd, small or big, right? Same for me. I'm super into it. I love speaking to groups. Like, I don't have any fear about that, but I have my own issues, right? So maybe that's easy for me, but other parts of the process are more challenging, whereas people have a harder time. And so you got to learn what your strengths are. Boundaries are important for Wendy. Pamela says, same. My followers will have to sign waivers because they'll be riding a roller coaster. Vanya said, I was terrified of speaking in front of a group, but she had to teach a class at one point. And then after that, everything changed and now she's fine. Liz wants to talk about equipment and logos and websites and stuff. Jamie said, yes, that stops me from moving forward on some of my projects. I get caught up in the details, like how do I flip the book on camera when I'm doing a baby story time class, right? All the techie stuff. And public speaking for Emalea. Okay. Paxton hasn't missed a meal, y'all. So in case you're wondering about his malnutrition that he will be happy to tell you about and complain about, he's doing just fine. He wasn't supposed to be 85 pounds. And vet told me, nope, 60, 65. So, yeah. He will tell you a lot of stories about how little food he gets. Okay. So let's go back, and I'm just going to make sure I'm double clicking where you want to go first. So the technical pieces, and we can get more into this in our Facebook group. I just want to say a couple of things that I think are really important. First of all, lighting is everything. And I'm not even talking about how you look on camera. I'm talking about people being able to see you clearly. There's nothing worse than content that's created with people who don't have a good light. I am happy to share all of my Amazon links for lights with you. I do have favorites. In fact, I just had to replace one of them that I'm going to turn a little bit because it's directly facing me and it's a little bit, sorry. It's so much light sometimes that it's overwhelming, but it's an important one. And then you have to have direct light and fill light. So I usually have 2 rings and a main, and I can give you links to those, and then they're all adjustable. But lighting is really important. And there's one of the lights that I use has a little holder on it for your phone. So you just like stick your phone in there, and you can choose warm light or cool light. So I'm happy to do that. Maybe seriously, we can start a thread for like equipment. I have a great microphone that I recommend. I love it, but my computer has a great built-in microphone. So I actually don't use it most of the time. but there are great microphones that you can use that you don't have to hold. Logos for me. Now I have Bruce, right? So I'm lucky. But before I had Bruce, and even when I was doing Athena's Lair, 99 Designs is the best place to go for a logo, hands down. And let me tell you why. Now you have to do a good job at 99 Designs. The harder you work, the better a logo you're going to get. Okay, and the less you're going to spend. If you want somebody to just come up with something for you and you don't want to inspire them or build a Pinterest board or anything like that, you're going to get what you get. But if you're smart and you go on 99 Designs, they take your concept and they distribute it out to a bunch of graphic designers. And then you get people who come in and they design things and they show you. And then you give them feedback and they tweak it, and feedback and they tweak it. And then you have like a week, okay, two, depends on how much you pay. But I think I took 2 weeks to decide on my finalists and then give them final feedback. And then it was finally the final design that I went with. But I built Pinterest boards, mood boards. I had Pantone colors, right? All kinds of inspiration for the artists, which helped them work much more efficiently in a short period of time to create what I was looking for. If you go in just like, I don't know, what do you think? You're not going to get as many bids from people. I think I had 20 bids on Athena's Lair, but I was giving them all the pieces and building blocks because I was very clear about what I wanted. Okay. So I highly recommend 99 Designs. And then I hired that person off of the website because we started just connecting. She was interested in what I was doing and we became kind of friends, and she's done a couple projects for me. So you can actually end up finding a really cool graphic designer through 99 Designs. And the person who did the Sage Goddess logo, same way. Just really good, smart, really creative people. So that's my thought for logos. And then website, Susan is my web designer. I have an in-house web designer at Sage Goddess, and then I have Susan, who's virtual. And so Susan might have a lot of recommendations and thoughts for where to go for that. Because if you just start like aiming in the dark, you're going to get everybody and their mother saying, I can build you a website. And then what you're going to learn is they actually can't. And then there's lots of like sort of stock website development tools you can use, but it looks stock, right? It depends on what your budget is and what you're trying to create. You may be able to, create something with a template that looks pretty good for you and meets your needs. What I've learned from Susan is don't overdevelop your website, right? Like keeping things simple and kind of streamlined is the best way to go unless it needs to be very complex. And I learned that with Sage Goddess too. Like we built this really complex website, and then, after I left, Dave made this decision to kind of like almost like Amazon it a little bit. It looked kind of like it was designed for shopping. It wasn't meant to be a visual experience. And then, so we've gone back to the original website, which I liked better, but it was a little gangly, right? So now trying to fine tune it and narrow it down. And so don't make the mistake I did, I guess, and build something that's not sustainable. Like the simpler it can be, the better. And the longer you'll have it and appreciate it too. So, again, if we're creating a thread in the group, Susan's probably a good person for you to ask. She is for sure a good person for you to ask about that. Okay, let me see. Yeah, it absolutely is a conversation with a graphic designer. And I've worked with some of the best graphic designers that I've ever met, right? Bruce is certainly world-class and up there. And even now, if I give him a project, like Nick is starting a company. So he's working on Nick's logo. And I told Nick, you better come up with a Pantone, right? Like what are the colors? What's the color waves? What's the mood? Give him sample fonts. When you close your eyes, what do you see? How many colors do you want to see there? Is it 2? Is it 10? All the things. I'm like, if you don't give him all that information, you're going to send him on a goose chase. And then you're going to say, well, I don't like this. And it's like, well, why didn't you tell me that to begin with? So you have to manage that relationship. And even the most gifted graphic designers need guidance, and they're going to be so grateful to you. I'm not an artist, but every graphic designer I've worked with has said, wow, you just really kind of know what I need. But I think to myself, like if I'm making a logo for someone, I want to know is it masculine? Is it feminine? Are any of the elements represented, right? Like, am I feeling like oranges and reds, or am I going blues and greens? Am I trying to stimulate an emotion in someone, right? Do I want them to feel hungry when they see it, right? If it's a food company. So yeah, Susan's here. Thankful that you're here. And she said, the more information, the better, even if it's general. Because, how much joy does it spark in you, Susan, to run down a rabbit hole you didn't need to go down, right? Like, oh, thank you, 40 hours later. Like, if you just told me you didn't like that, right, it could have saved me a lot of time. The Sage Goddess logo was, I said at the time, I wanted it to be me, right? Like me in my dress with my purple and red hair, and kind of like, like I kind of gave them the image of like flowers and sage coming out of my hand, and that's how we came up with the SG logo, which I still love, but it was what I thought that was going to end up looking like. Like, some people tried to do like my exact face, and I was like, no, because I kind of want it to look like it could be any woman, right? I don't want you to look at it and go, that's Athena. I want you to look at it and go, that could be me too. Like, I'm a sage goddess, right? So I was trying to create a universally applicable image that still had something of me in it, so that I would feel connected to it. And it is. I mean, I think that logo is beautiful. And it was a young graphic designer, you guys. She was just starting out. She was in her 20s. And she was stoked, So that ended up being a really positive experience too. How important is a logo in the early stages? I'm going to tell you what, and again, other people are going to tell you I'm totally wrong, and they may be right. I think no matter what you're doing, having a logo, first of all, it makes you feel official. Okay. And you don't have to spend that much to get a logo designed. You really don't. It makes you feel official. It crystallizes your vision. There's something that makes it real when you have a logo. One of my friends is starting a consulting company, and he's asking for my help. And he's like, I don't think I need a logo. And I said, you do. If you want to know my opinion, I think you do. And he's like, well, I just wanted to have my initials, right? Like RS Consulting. And I'm like, you still need a logo, right? Is it a really straight all caps font? Is it kind of scripty? Is one of the letters straight, the other one's scripty? Again, I always go to the elements, right? Like, do you want people to feel excited when they see it, or calm when they see it? Or, is it earthy? And he's like, oh, answering these questions is kind of helping me think about my vision for the kind of work I want to do. And I was like, yeah, it's going to make it real for you. It's going to crystallize the vision for you, right? So yeah, and Linda says she designed her own logo. And again, you can do that too, right? You can, if you're gifted, I'm just not gifted that way, but if you're gifted that way, you can design it. What I am good at is directing. I'm a good art director. And so I'm good at saying, I don't know what it needs to look like, but this is the mood, right? So I think investing in yourself is a really cool thing. Lena's has a blessing sigil incorporated into it, which I think is really cool too. So you can weave some magic into it that nobody else is going to know about. And I think that's kind of cool. The Athena's Lair logo is based on a drawing that one of my customers, Dauphine, drew for me eons ago. And so she was super stoked so I license her art. So it's a really mutually beneficial relationship, because she, gets the benefit of having her art valued and monetized, right? And so if I make a new product with the logo, then I just let her know this is what we're thinking about doing. And you know what I mean? So that for me, art is very important. And I think our society kind of undervalues it. But there's a reason why we appreciate art and logos. And it's because, it gives an energy to something. It's almost like a fingerprint of who you are and how you want it to be, how you want your identity to be received, right? I would say two of my friends that I spoke to for tonight's class have logos. One doesn't. And we did talk about that. And just for what she does, she doesn't really need a logo. She's got kind of a symbol that she works with. Yeah, I mean, the Athena Slayer one is just rad. So it was Dauphine's art, and then the graphic designer kind of like put roses and, doll things and made it red and gold and all the things. But that was a good partnership between them. Couple of things I wanted to say on these other topics, but it's in your notes. And we can talk about public speaking because I do have some thoughts for you there. On point number 4 about how to be successful on Facebook and Instagram. So I know a lot about algorithms. I know a lot about strategy for these two platforms in particular because they're like my home platforms. And again, I'm going to say this to you, okay? If you don't post good content, and we can talk about what good means. If you don't post good content, it doesn't matter what time you post it. You can post shitty content at 3 p.m. when you know all of your people are online and it's not going to get liked and shared. You can post a not good piece of content, a great piece of content that everybody's going to appreciate at midnight when Facebook says nobody's online. And if it's good, it's going to go viral. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about what good content is. And also maybe just as important, what is shitty content? Okay. It's interesting teaching this class because you guys are also on the receiving end of content that I make and share. And then you've also received content that I didn't make or share. And every single one of my community members who's honest with me and has been around for a while says the same thing. Okay. I can always tell when it's you. And then I pressure test that. I'm like, oh, you can? And they're like, yeah, I can. And I'm like, okay, so what was the last thing I posted on Instagram? And they will say, that post. And I'm like, well, shit, you're right. You can tell when it's me and when it's not me. And they're like, I can tell by the copy. Right? Okay. I can tell by the picture. I can tell by the time you posted it. And it irritates everybody who works with me. Right down to my own sister. Okay. Because she's like, you'll post something at 11 p.m. with like one sentence and it'll reach 10,000 people. I will post a thing that got graphic design to death with like exactly the right copy at 2 p.m. when all your people are online, and it'll have 1,000 views. And I'm like, that's just the shit of it, right? So it's true. Okay, so the lesson in this for you is people who want what you have to offer, can we just be real for a second? They'd rather have less of you, but have you than have a whole bunch of stuff. It's like Christmas gifts, right? Do you want 96 Christmas presents that I didn't choose for you, but there's 96 of them? Or do you want 5 that I really thought about you? And I had a budget, right? So I couldn't spend all the money, but I really chose these 5 to bring to you. You'd be like, I don't want more. I want real, right? So the rule is, when we talk about this, yeah. And by the way, Sage Goddess IG is like such a case in point, right? I am so sure if you go to Instagram, you could tell when it's me posting. And, my sister is doing an amazing job of trying to help me. And this is her domain area of expertise, but it's just different. Like if she posts something, it's like a class reminder or like what's the Scorpio full moon or whatever. It's like, but I'm in there posting the inappropriate stories and reels and the, all the stuff. If there's music attached to it, it's probably me because I'm very much into you hearing something while you're seeing something because I understand how the brain works. So music gets everything farther, but it's got to be the right music, right? So I really am very intentional about this, the songs that go with the posts and all those things. But I don't post every day. I don't have time. But if I post something, like I posted something today on Instagram about how you don't have to be everything to everybody, and it's it's gotten something like 6,000 views in an hour or two, right? So, which is pretty good for our Instagram. Yeah. So that's the thing too. Like you can tell if it's my voice and it's something I would say, if it's sarcastic, and even when I'm being serious, right? It doesn't sound the same. So my number one piece of advice to you that you're not going to like, but it's going to save you money is do your own social media. Or don't listen to me and find someone to do it, and you're going to end up going back and doing it yourself. It's just how it goes. And it's because ultimately, no matter how well you train someone or, inspire them or guide them or give them parameters or whatever, nobody really can do it the way you can do it for you. If you are part of your brand, there's really nobody, no matter how smart they are, they've got 20 years of experience, they have a bachelor's degree from God's favorite child's university, right? It doesn't matter, right? Like it's just, their finger is not on the pulse the way yours is, and you're just going to be more successful. But people will say, like, I have a degree from Harvard. Oh, wow. That's not useful for me. And then the other thing I wanted to say is the number one key to being successful in social media. Do you know what it is? And by the way, my friends all agreed on this. You have to act like you're on that platform. So like I love Instagram and I love Facebook. I'm on them all the time. So when I post, I'm kind of in the groove, right? And because I'm on there a lot, my For Me page, my For You page is very accurate. So if something shows up on my For You page, I can almost guarantee you're going to like it because it's curated from the things that I'm already scrolling through and looking at. And because I follow hashtags and I follow people that I think are funny and I think are interesting, and it's very diverse. Right? I follow florists, I follow herbalists, I follow comedians, I follow astrologers, right? So somewhere in the middle of all that, I follow music accounts. Like there's something in there that I think you're going to like too. So if you, right? So, and I follow dumb stuff and I follow inappropriate stuff, right? So somewhere and a lot of pet videos. So somewhere in there is going to be something that makes you laugh, which leads me to the other thing that all four of us agreed upon. Being funny matters. If you're not naturally funny, like be artificially funny, but like get funny. People want to laugh just a little bit. They don't want to laugh at you, right? But they want to laugh with you. And so I think taking things to the edge of what is funny is actually really important. And the statistics will tell you, because I read everything, right, about what's trending and all those things. The more you can be authentically funny to the limit that's appropriate for you, the more likely you are to be successful. So it's okay to crack a joke. It's okay to be a little, edgy. It's okay to put stuff in there that doesn't seem like it's to your brand or whatever. Like our weird dancing, cat videos with sunglasses really sage goddessy. Like, I don't know, but I think that's funny as shit. And that kind of stuff to my community is the stuff that goes farther than let's talk about, what Libra rising, blah, 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 like, but if I put like the salsa dancing cat, that will reach a lot of people. I'm not going to post a salsa dancing cat every day, but you're going to find some weird shit. If I'm taking control of the Instagram story, like I did today, you're going to find some funny shit in there. Now, I mean, I'm lucky because Lee helps me with the Lair Instagram, and we have the same sense of humor, right? So she's also good with like music videos and dancing animals and, getting the balance right. So if you're working with people, it's good if they have a similar sense of humor. Okay. How to maintain people's interest. I do want to talk about that. And again, I can loop back to any of these subjects because I have 100 things to say about everything, right? Yeah. So here's what I want to say. And again, we all agreed on this. When people ask me what I do for a living, I make up a different story every time I get asked that. because the reality is I don't know. I don't know what I do for a living. Most of the time I say, oh, I'm a teacher. Oh, what do you teach? And then it gets weird, right? So what I usually say is I'm a storyteller. Because I am. I tell stories in writing. I tell stories as stories. Everything I sell, I don't sell it unless there's a story attached to it, because stories are how we make meaning of reality as human beings, right? There's a story of my life. There's a story of your life. There's a story of your birth. There's a story of my children's birth, right? Like everything has a story. When I cook, right? Which I'm really excited that my agent wants my cookbook. That was the big development today. I have always wanted to write a cookbook, and I got the green light today. So that's it's not going to happen right now, but it formalizes my ability to move in the direction that I want to move in. So I'm very excited about that. I know that was a big thing today. It's like, it's a green light. We're a go for a cookbook, y'all. I can't wait. It's not going to be a normal cookbook. But what I am hoping to do, because I started to write the cookbook in my journal with my own handwriting, and he's down to propose it to the publishers, is to actually have pages that are just my handwriting. So they're not typed, which I think is kind of neat, like snapshots of just where I wrote this down before it was ever a thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to bring you anything normal, so thank you for that. But like all my jam and preserve recipes and granola recipes and tea recipes and things for cough and things for this and all the stuff I've never been able to put anywhere, like all of that's going to be in there, and all my grandma's recipes and all my mom's recipes and all the things. So it'll be really cool when the time comes. But all to say to you, right, like it's also going to be kind of funny and kind of like a little bit inappropriate at times, and because that's for me what will keep people engaged. And I want it to be a book that people come back to and dog ear the pages and get inspired by the pictures and all of those things, right? Okay, but storytelling. So here's what I want to tell you, okay? If you, and this applies whether you're going to be live for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, how many of you feel like you have to be live now, or you would like to be live doing something in social media where you're facing the camera to be successful? Like, how many of you are here right now who feel that that's an important part of what your mission and your vision is, right? Okay. I don't care whether you're live with me for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, okay? There's one thing that guides everything I do. And hopefully, if you think about every time you've seen me live, you can kind of see it now that I'm telling you the secret, okay? And by the way, this is true for when I taught in the classroom. This is how I trained teachers, and it's a paradigm shift, okay? You need to have what's called a narrative arc, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the end needs to go back to the beginning somehow, okay? Because research shows, psychological research and education, research on books and successful books versus not successful books, research on cinema and film, all echo the same principle. It's just like a paper chase, okay? Exactly the same concept. People are going to feel that they're having an experience with you if you create a narrative arc, okay? I'm starting somewhere. I'm not telling you I'm starting somewhere, but I do. I'm going somewhere, and I'm going to leave you somewhere. And when I leave you there, I'm going to hint back to where I started with you so that you have a little bit of an aha moment. Like, oh, I see what she did there, right? She started me somewhere. She took me somewhere. She's got a point, right? No matter how Looney Tunes she is, there's a method to that crazy lady's madness. She left me somewhere, right? So I'm further than I was when I started with her. But there's something in the place that she left me that echoes back to where we started. So I feel like she closed the loop. And what this means is, okay, because I'm good at figuring out my timing, right? What this means is you're going to notice when I'm starting, you're going to feel when I'm kind of at the midpoint. I'm there right now, right? And then you're going to intuitively understand when I'm close to being done without looking at a clock. That's how you know you're with somebody who's managing your time. And you're going to have an echo or a hint of like, ooh, I see what she's doing. She's taking us back to where we started, but showing us how far we came. Okay. Subconsciously, let's talk about what this does from a public speaking perspective. So if you're giving a presentation, first of all, you don't have to worry about people paying attention because you're going to be leading them naturally through kind of a timeline or a story. And our brains almost automatically want to finish a story. We want to finish the movie. We want to finish the book. We call it a page turner, right? Like, ooh, where's she going next? Because you can feel, right? Same thing with good poetry, a 3-act structure, right? These are all a paper, a film, like everything follows this structure. But when it comes to public speaking, people focus on tonality, right? Projection of the voice. Can I hear you? Are you distracted, right? Are you reading from your notes? That's the other thing. If you find yourself, I go to my notes for you guys because this is kind of a chunky class and I don't want to lose track. But if I was sitting here reading my notes to you, I would hope you would have logged off like 3 minutes into this. I can't watch anybody read anything. So you do have to have the ability to be off a page and still stay to your narrative arc, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And the end, like I said, has to have some echo back to the beginning so that we feel like, as my mom would say, you dotted your I's and crossed your T's, right? Okay, so other than that, other things you need to think about, lighting, okay, so that you look well lit. Again, things that I'm going to say that maybe other people wouldn't say. I think you should look presentable. You know what I mean? Like, I don't teach class rolling out of bed. Like, I don't know. There's something, maybe I'm old school. Like, I do try to come to you in a presentable way and like think about my appearance and, you know, have my shit together. I don't know. Now some people have built a brand on not doing that, right? And for them, that's part of their authenticity. So no harm, no foul, right? What I look for again is consistency. Like, I think you should look away and just stay away. So if you're always going to do it with your hair pulled back in a bun and no makeup, that's your thing. But be consistent about that, right? Or, you know, for me, I try to be consistent. So people are like, oh, when they're scrolling, I'm recognizable, right? So if I look a different way every day, or I'm constantly changing my hair or constantly changing again, I'm going to go back to consistency. The research says people like people and follow people who are consistent with their appearance, with their timing, with the tone of their voice, with their, you know, the rhythm of what they communicate between humor and seriousness. And like, people are looking for consistency. And I'll tell you why. Since we were babies, consistency meant we were safe. One of your main questions tonight was about building trust. You know how you build trust with people? By appearing consistent, being consistent. Because as babies, if someone shows up one day to take care of us and doesn't show up the next day, we aren't safe. If someone's nice to us one day, mom's nice today on Monday and she's a real bitch on Tuesday and then she's nice again on Wednesday, we're not safe. And we're going to be looking for somebody else who is nice every day or shows up every day, right? So this isn't even something intellectual. This is your subconscious going, this person looks the same, sounds the same, is the same, I can trust them. And it's true in every industry. It's true because it goes back to foundational psychology and really like the core parts of our brain and how we're trained to form attachment. Because if you want people to follow you and learn from you and work with you for a long time, they have to build an attachment to you. And that's just, again, psychology. So we're going to come back to things we've talked about before, right? Like, how do people attach? What makes for strong attachment? What makes for weak attachment? And that becomes a responsibility where you're like, ooh, now I really got to do this thing, right? I have to commit to not just being on point and on message, but I got to commit to kind of being who I am all the time. And so that's why people drop off. Okay. If I felt like I couldn't be successful unless I was blonde and I don't know, wore a suit every time, that would last for about 2 days, right? Before I would be like, "Ooh, rip this off, take this off. I need to be comfortable. I need to, have purple hair." Like, I can't maintain that, and so it would fall apart really quickly, right? Um, yeah, Vanya was saying every performance evaluation I wrote in the last 7 to 10 years has the words, "I appreciate consistency over the moments of greatness." It's really true. Well, and I actually did bleach my hair a little bit last year because I was like, well, I'm getting bored, But even for me, I appreciate my own consistency. It kind of freaked me out every time I walked past a mirror. And then the kids were like, "You look so normal." And like, I don't want to look normal, right? So yeah, we are building attachments with people, and anybody can say all day long that you're not really attaching to your clients and your customers. Really? Then what are you doing? I mean, aren't you? I don't, but I don't have a lot of lines that I draw in my life. I consider my clients and my customers my friends, and I don't bring them things to sell that I wouldn't buy myself. I try to treat them in a way that's respectful, right? Even with this moving sale, I was like, I would be really hurt if, and we talked about this, which is why we did the pre-sale for you guys, before we do anything for the broader community. Cause I'm like, I would be really hurt if I'd been my customer for 15 years and I was going to save all this money and I didn't get first dibs. Like, I'd be like, really? I followed you and supported you for all these years. Like, I want some benefit for that. So it was like, no, we've got to come to our student communities first and do something special for them and quiet, right? Like, cause I was thinking, how do I want to be treated? And if I think of these people, of you people and our community people and all of the people who work with us and for us as family, then how would I want to be treated? If I just thought I was like everybody else, it would kind of bum me out, right? So it may be my fixed sun, and and I think that's probably true. So I think, wait, am I? Oh no. Okay, well, hold on. I'm only on page 2. Shit. This is what I thought was going to happen. So let me focus, because I really want to get through everything that my friends who are influencers shared, and then as per the usual, let me just see how far I go, because I've got 2 pages of their stuff. Okay, so this is the juicy stuff of tonight's class. Let me try to be focused. There's a big question for tonight. Okay, which goes back to my leadership roots, but it also goes back to what my friends and I were talking about in our conversations. What are you about? What are you about? That's a different question than what do you do for a living? That's a different question than what's important to you, similar to what's important to you. But literally, like, why are you here? What are you about? I had to go in front of my agency to try to pitch my books, right? And I thought, these may well be the last, literary projects I do in my life, because I just, at some point, writing is a lot, right? So, and I'm 51. I've written 4 books, right? So I'm like, what am I about? And what I told them was, I'm about magic, and I'm about intentionality. Doing things on purpose. That's what I'm about at my core. And what that does for me is it helps me say anything that isn't about magic or being intentional, probably isn't really what I need to be thinking about, right? And if you look at everything I'm doing in my life right now, it's about magic and intention. So I'm aligned, right? Like, what I'm doing is aligned with who I am. You got to figure out your BE statement. This is what I want to be. This is what I want to embody. This is what I want to vibrate in alignment with in my life. And that's ultimately what people will want to purchase from you, is something that is aligned to your what I'm about statement. Okay. And then they're not going to buy the things that aren't, if you really think about it. So that statement, I'm about this, impacts every part of your life. It's going to impact how you raise your family. It's going to impact how you engage with your partner. It's going to, right? Like, I don't just leave my intentionality at the door when I get home. I'm intentional about what I eat. I'm intentional about how and where I sleep. I'm intentional about my nighttime routine and my morning routine. I'm intentional about everything, right? How I shop for groceries, where I shop for groceries. So that's what I be, right? That's my statement. It will change over time, but probably not dramatically, right? I've been pretty much about magic and intentionality since I was a kid, but I'm more confident in being about those things now that I'm older and I realize I don't really have a choice. Okay, so here's what my friends said. Relatively famous folks, like people you would probably recognize and identify. When I asked them what their secret sauce is, and these are the common points, okay, where everybody agreed. So I really hope this is helpful for you. The number one thing they all said was, you've got to figure out why you're different. And instead of running from that, you got to lean into that. So that, and it goes back to shadow work and everything else. And we had these conversations and they were super fun. Like, most of us think about that, like what makes you different. But it's, for most of us, it's why we were bullied. It's why our partners left us. It's why, you know what I mean? It's the things that have led us to struggle and have a challenging time in life. So we often don't want to run into that. We often run away from that. And then by the time you realize, and then we all agreed on this, by the time you realize that that's actually your magic, is what makes you different from everybody else, it's sometimes too late. So instead of, right? I love that. So watch your words in the feed. And by the way, write these things down in your notebook. Like, as I'm talking, I want you to write your own reflections. So the thing that makes you different is the core of your magic. And all four of us, I think, if we say this is our secret sauce, is the things that we have felt like made us feel less than, or ostracized from, or excluded because of those things, we actually decided to double down on those. And it's risky, right? Because you could also look and say, those are the things that people haven't liked about me. But that's how you know you're in the juice, right? Like, some people are not going to like you. I'm sure you've realized that. If that's a real aha moment for you, let me just wake you up to it right now. Like, I mean, a lot of people probably don't like me, right? But I am who I am, and I do what I do, and I know it's why I'm here. So I just fa la la, you know, my way through it. But I think it's about leaning into those places where you're different. So, one of them said, well, this is, you know, kind of like your value proposition, your differentiator, which is the business school language. And this gets to why your product or your service is so needed, because that's why you were given a difference, so that you would feel that isolation and it would lead you to find your people, right? Like, for us, the reasons I feel different is probably in so many ways the reasons why you feel different. And that's where we connect. And that's why I can be vulnerable with you and you can be vulnerable with me, because we've both been isolated sometimes for the ways in which we're different, but our differences are similar. And then they all agreed, find your favorite form of social media and share yourself there first. You're more likely to be successful because you know how to do it. So that was a topic I covered earlier. They all agreed what works for other people may not work for you. So don't go just throwing money at advertising. Don't go hiring every person who says they can help you. And then this was a mutual point for all of us. Look for free ways to self-promote before you invest really heavily in advertising, meaning put good content out there and work with other people who are doing, you know, working in your similar area, and see if you guys can, you know, I'll share yours if you share mine, right? These are free ways to kind of self-promote what you're doing. And we also talked about, like, you know, engaging with people in person, sometimes going to networking events close by. One of them was talking about here, and she's here in Los Angeles. And she was like, you know, those people discount those networking groups and sessions and stuff, but like, I've really built a strong local foundation for the work that I do by going to those events. And she was also saying connecting with people who are kind of outside her area of expertise. So going into adjacent was the word she used, adjacent industries. So, she's not in the yoga field, for example, but she's partnered with a lot of yoga studios, and they'll trade services, they'll do mutual advertising for each other. So that can be virtual and in person, right? Have fun. If you make content you enjoy, people will enjoy watching it. If you're having a good time, then people are going to enjoy watching you. If what you're making in terms of content feels like you're pulling your own eyebrows out with dull tweezers, that's how it's going to be received. Like there is no doubt in any of our minds that if you're having fun, other people are going to have fun too. And even if it's not relevant, which was also something that we agreed upon. So, when I first started doing some cooking stuff, because I love to cook, I remember Dave was like, "Why are you doing that? It just seems like divergent. We don't cook here. We're not about that, right?" But I'm about it. And because who I am is what I do, and people went for the ride. They're like, "Oh, I like watching you cook." Like, well, you're not trained. That's, sometimes it's a shit show. Okay, but people aren't watching me because I'm a trained chef. They're watching me because they're not a trained chef. And so when I make a mess or spill something or it goes off the rails, they laugh because like they make a mess and they spilled sauce on the recipe and now they can't read it and things like that, right? So who cares if it's relevant? And this is also how you branch out and expand. One of them was sharing a story with me where she was like, "Athena," so I was like, "Well, don't you think this product over here is really what made you successful?" And she was like, "Athena, no, like that was a total accident. That was a fluke." And at the time it was like, "Well, that's not really relevant. And why are you going in that direction? And that's a distraction." And she was like, "I couldn't convince anybody that that was where I should go." And I was like, "That's nuts. I didn't even know that." And she was like, "Athena, I'm telling you right now, like if I listen to everybody and their mom about like, that's irrelevant and that's not, that's not aligned to your brand." I was like, "Well, I guess the same is true for me too." Yeah, like my makeup video. I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not a, skincare expert. And, but I know what I know. And that get ready video with me with no makeup on, by the way, which was ballsy, right, is like the most watched video on YouTube ever. Maybe because people want to see what I look like with no makeup on. But I also think I like watching people get ready authentically, where it's not like a Kardashian thing with stylists and stuff. So, yeah. So all of that is true. One of them had a quote, which I thought was really great. "If you're a night owl, be a night owl, because you'll find your other night owls. And they're going to appreciate that you're a night owl. So do what you love. Don't worry about the algorithms." We all agreed with that too. Fuck the algorithms, right? They're going to change tomorrow anyway. It's like trying to manage a woman's hormones, which you can't do unless you test their hormones every single day because it fluctuates, right? As I told them, I'm like, my students want to know about algorithms and all these things. And all three of them said, "Do you worry about algorithms?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Oh, well, I don't. I've never thought about algorithms." And they're like, "It's such an arbitrary nightmare. Like today, if you post at this time and in front of these people, it's going to get here." And it's like, the whole point of an algorithm is to not be trackable, right? Like as soon as you think you've got it, then they're going to switch it anyway. And you don't even know why it's being switched. Right? So these are all, at least from our perspective, these are all things that really are important. Okay. And I'm just reading your comments really quick. Continuing on to page 3. Oh, this is important. Charge what you're worth, but. Okay. Charge what you're worth and your products are worth, but know your audience. We all said this. I've been accused of being like the cheaper teacher, or like, because my classes are not expensive. I mean, compared to some people, right? Like there are people who really charge crazy amounts for their classes, for their programs. In a lot of cases, like my products aren't always the most expensive. Sometimes I've had expensive stuff, but I usually I'm usually within range, right, of like what's out there in the world. Um, and we all agreed people need to feel like they're being honored. Their time, their money, their their investment, right? That you're not taking advantage of that. That can really undermine your brand. So I have friends who are like, "Well, I don't do anything for less than X amount of money." And it's like, "Good for you, dude." You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And I've told you the story before, and one of my friends knows this woman who now shall not be named, but I've wanted to work with her for a long time. And every time I go back to her and go, "So what would it look like to work one-on-one with you?" It's like, 10, 15, $20,000 for like 3 sessions. But one of them you get to be in person. And it's just like, I just can't get to a place, even if I had the money, where I feel good about that. So I always back off. And then down the road, I'm like, "Oh, it'd be so cool to work with her." And I go back to her and it's the same thing. So this last time I said to her, I'm like, she was like, "Is this going to be the time we finally work together?" And I'm like, "Not if the shtick is the same, because I don't feel like, it's not that you're not worth it, right? I'm sure you are, but I mean, my God, I'm going to be stressed. I'm not going to feel like the investment is worth it. I've got kids going to college. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, at what point?" So that's for me, right? Like, I just can't get myself to do it. Even if you handed me a check for that amount and said, "Just go work with her," I don't know that I would do it, because I'd be like, I could do a lot more with that, right? With other things that are important to me. So we all agree, know your audience, know what their capacity is. Don't stress people out. Like, if people are learning from you, but at the same time they're thinking, "I gave up my kid's dance class for this," or whatever, like, just be real about who your audience is, and what the trade-offs are for them, right? The cost of your time. And then at the same time, though, we all agreed, don't undercharge, because then you're going to get resentful and tired, right? So don't stretch yourself too thin. It's also really hard sometimes to know, like, if you create a product, like, how many of them are going to sell, and is there going to be ongoing demand? Like, sometimes these are hard things to plan, but within reason. Like, don't be the most expensive kid on the block, and I guess what we were saying is, don't be the cheapest kid on the block, but like, you got to find your comfort zone there, and then you have to take into consideration where people are right now in this world that I live in on Earth. There's a lot of financial uncertainty, and people are scared. And there's not a lot guaranteed, right? And that's kind of true in the country where I live, and in other countries around the world too. There's just a lot of instability. So what I've learned about this time is, don't ask people to make really seriously crazy long-term commitments to things. Be reasonable in pricing, where you can create good value for people, because that's going to build trust. And we all said the same thing about that. And then the next thing was, work harder than you think you're going to need to work. All four of us agreed about this. It's it's harder than it looks. And at the end of the day, there's going to be things that we have to do that nobody else can do to help us or support us. And so it's always going to require more. And nobody's going to congratulate you for working harder. Nobody's going to be there early in the morning, late at night, when you're the first one in or the last one out, or, you know what I mean? Nobody's going to see that. And a lot of times they won't actually see how hard you're working. So you shouldn't expect kudos for that. We all talked about how we didn't grow up really being like workaholics, but we've become workaholics because we've built something that we feel is important. And if we don't do it, kind of nobody else will. So the buck stops with you. So no matter what you plan for, one of them said, more will be required of you, and you have to be willing to do that and make those sacrifices, right? Yeah, and you can pat your own back all the time. I mean, I do sometimes, like, yay me, look at me go. It's Tuesday. I have makeup on both my eyes. There are days where I'm literally like, girl, look at you. Your winged eyeliner matches. You have a bra on. You bathed. You know what I mean? Like the little things. Look how great I am, right? Your kids are fed, like the baseline is low sometimes. One of them said, and this is so true, no one is going to love your baby as much as you do. And I mean that literally. No one's going to love your babies as much as you do. But your creation in life, nobody's going to love it. They will love it, but they're not going to love it as much as you do. So they're not going to see things the way you see it, right? Because one of them was like, girl, like everybody who works with me thinks I'm so demanding because I notice everything. And she's like, and I'm not super picky, but she was saying, I can't, like, I just look at things through this lens of, I had a vision for this, right? And this isn't what the vision looked like. And so she's like, I have these like devil wears Prada moments where I'm sure I seem like a huge asshole, but it's just like, I'm so committed to the integrity of what I'm doing that I'm not willing to sacrifice on certain things. And I was like, I get it. Like nobody's going to love your baby as much as you do. Nobody's going to look at it through the same lens. And then to this point, they all agreed, you're probably going to have to work every day as an entrepreneur. But it doesn't mean you have to work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And, the only gift of being an entrepreneur sometimes is that you get to decide the terms and boundaries. So I'm going to, like, one of my boundaries is I really want to take a week off this summer, which might sound like no big deal to you, but it's very hard in my world to take a week off where I'm not on my phone, or in fact, I don't remember the last time I really took a week off. But I would like to, like, really unplug. And I'm trying to figure out how and when to do that. But that feels like a huge luxury, right? For me to think about creating that kind of space. Now, I'm not overinflating my importance, right? Like the world will go on without me for a week, but because I manage a lot of things, I have to pick my schedule with tweezers, right? And I have kids, like, are they going to be okay? And my son's traveling a lot this summer. I'm sending him on a bunch of different trips as his graduation gift. So he's going to Sweden and Greece and Mexico and without me, but sort of back to back. And so I'm like, I need to be here when he's there so that he can reach me, and just a lot of things to think about. And then the last one was not surprising. You need to build trust in yourself first, and then that will lead to other people trusting you, right? Yeah, it would be nice to have a break. And that's true. Chase says it is your baby. It's not anybody else's baby. So, and part of understanding that people are not going to care as much as you do is not expecting them to. It's not fair, right? I can't expect people to work the way I do. It's for everybody else, it's a job, right? They may love it. And the people I work with, some of whom are here, like, God bless them. Like, it matters to them beyond what it should. But at the end of the day, if I expect from them what I expect from myself, it's not realistic. Mm-hmm. It's true, Katie. And Jennifer says, being in control of my work schedule is the number one best thing about being an entrepreneur, right? Thank you for that. Bufnita says, what do you do when you're reserved and private, but you have to deal with social media? And can we talk about hustle culture? Everyone talks about working hard, but that isn't sustainable. Yeah, and God bless you, seriously, for that. So first of all, hustle culture is ridiculous, right? And this idea of like everything's a side hustle. You're not going to get a reward at the end of your life for how hard you worked, right? I'm not going to get one. You're not going to get one. And in fact, we're more likely to say maybe we shouldn't have worked as hard, right? Because we didn't enjoy life the way we should have. When you are a private person, but you have to be in social media, here's what I want to tell you. Your people are probably kind of private too. And they're going to really appreciate that you're not putting on a mask and pretending to be something that you're not, that you are showing up kind of private in the way that's authentic to you. It's going to resonate with them. Okay. So what I would say is, again, remember the things that we think like, oh, I'm kind of private, but I'm trying to do this public thing and it's uncomfortable. Are they going to know that I'm uncomfortable? Is it going to be uncomfortable for them? lean all the way into being private and even be honest about it. You know, I'm not an extrovert. I'm kind of introverted. So this is challenging for me, but I really want to be here and share this with you. And you're going to, if you could see people receiving your content, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's so refreshing to hear them say that, because I struggle too. And then you can talk about and be really inspiring when you say, I'm overcoming that, you know, because I'm so committed to the work that we're doing. And so bear with me while I stretch myself and move outside of my comfort zone. It's like, how refreshing is that? I would look at that and go, that's awesome, right? This person is really exploring the edges of who they are because they're so committed to having a public presence, right? Hustling is so like 2019. Like I'm much more empressy, but you know what I'm not? And I want to draw this line. And by the way, we're in the Q&A phase right now. So let's just meld the last 15 minutes together of kind of like this blend of what I want to share with you and what you want to ask. There is another trend right now. So can we say there's a continuum? And this is, again, where I say things that might not be popular, but over here is like hustle bustle, right? Like hustle, you got to work hard all the time. Over here is like, you know, Empress energy and kind of like, I'm going to work hard, but I'm not going to kill myself. Over here is some entitled bullshit that I'm not interested in at all. And I'm actually quite concerned about it. So I'm less concerned with hustle culture because you can deal with peer pressure, right? If people are like, oh, and you always feel less than, and like, I'm not working as hard as everybody else. What I'm not here for is like the no worky thing. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, yeah, quiet quitting, barely doing the minimum at work, you know, like checked out here, checked out there, because, and I'm not even talking about people at work. I'm talking about people with their own stuff. They want all the rewards of it and they don't want to put their time in. And what I would say, like out the gate, and I've told my kids this too, if you want to be successful, but you don't want to work hard, just go work for somebody else, please. Because if you want to be self-employed and, you know, you've been raised by people, you know, I've always been the entrepreneur in the family. I think, you know, Dave is entrepreneurial, but he was very much sort of behind the scenes and support in a traditional role. But like, I'm like, you've been raised by me, right? And I'm balls to the wall. Like, I'll do the thing. Shit's going to get done. And I got 24 hours today to do it. And I'm not going to bed till it's done. Like, you've been raised with that. And that's what it takes. If you want to put less time in, please go get a job. 9 to 5, work for somebody else, come home, put your phone down, right? But don't set expectations that you can have the things without putting in the time and the effort. Yeah, and my dad with the restaurant, I never saw him growing up. Now my kids see me because I've set up a life where I'm around, right? That's really important. I work a lot, but my kid, I'm present, right? And I don't miss baseball games and I don't miss banquets and I don't miss this and I don't miss that and I don't miss doctor's appointments and I like, you know, all the things. I'm always there. And that's the benefit of the life that I have. But if I have a doctor's appointment with Zoe from 10 to 12 in the morning, I'm going to be working from 6 to 8 that night in order to get shit done in that 24-hour period. So I don't know what's going on with people not wanting to work hard, but I have absolutely zero tolerance for it. And I'm very lucky because coming back to SG, I got to kind of pick and choose people to call back and see if they would come back and work with me. And I don't have anybody around me who doesn't work hard. I never have to go to a single person in my life and say, hey, could you just do the thing? Like, ever. So I'm very blessed. But I think people in my life also know, like, if I'm coming to you and we're having that conversation, holy shit, right? So I have zero tolerance for that. One of the women I interviewed for this said, think of what parents offer to kids. That's what your customers want from you. So it goes back to the consistency thing. I want to know that you have my best interests at heart. So when you sell me something, it's probably worth what you say it's worth. It's going to do the thing you say it's going to do. It's going to be consistent day to day, time to time, right? Um, and she laid it out this way, which I thought was really cool. I can, I will, I vow, and I care. The I can is competency. I'm competent to teach this class to you. I can do it. I know the thing. I know how to deliver it to you. Consistency is I will show up and do this class with you and for you, and I will complete this class with you and for you and certify you the way I said I will, right? Integrity, I vow. Doing this with you and for you is part of my mission and vision for my life. So it matters to me, and I'm going to take it seriously, even if and when you don't, right? And then I care. I care about you as a person. So I have compassion for you, right? If you need something, I'm going to try to figure out how to, swizzle this so it meets your needs and matches your expectations. She drew a line. So an employee does the competency and consistency thing. I can and I will. I can do this job. I'm going to show up and do it. A boss says, I vow and I care. So the burden of responsibility, which I so agree with, is greater when you're an entrepreneur because you have those two extra categories. Not just can I and will I, but I care. And this goes to my own integrity. So the buck stops with me and there's no excuses for anything, right? If you're a customer at SG and you're having a really bad experience, you've seen me in social media, right? I'm all over it. And people will be like, why do you respond? And why do you this? Because I care. I didn't start this company to like give somebody a piece of shit product that they didn't like. Like, no, I care about this. This goes to like why I'm on the planet. So I'm going to go to crazy lengths to make people happy, even if they're just trying to get attention, because it goes to who I am and what I'm here to do on the planet, right? So the last thing I wanted to say is, because one of the women riffed on this, and I thought it was really valuable, it's not just what builds trust, but what undermines it. And I thought that's a really important point. So these were the points that she covered. Self-interest above the collective interest. So I don't want to work this hard. Someone else could do this. My favorite is someone else should do this. You ask someone to do something and they're like, is there somebody else who could do this? I don't think my job description, it doesn't really say that. And meanwhile, I'm like, I just cleaned the bathroom. So I'm pretty sure, but that's entrepreneur in me, right? Like, is anything out of my job description, right? Like, I don't ask people to clean bathrooms, but it's just like, if your job is a social media coordinator and I ask you to do something, to write something, right? Like, well, it doesn't say I was going to be a writer. It said I was going to be more like a coordinator. So that's like less doing and more just like, and it's like, no, that's some doing. Like, you're going to do some doing, right? Inconsistency. Notice, notice, this is what she said, and I thought this was really helpful. Notice where you don't show up in your own life. And stop trying to do that and forcing yourself to fit some round peg into a square hole. Stop doing things you don't like doing. And if necessary, hire people or outsource that task to somebody else. If you really want to be successful, you still have 24 hours in a day. So if you're like, I swear to God, I cannot get myself to do this one thing. Let's just be clear, okay? You're not ever going to hire me to do your taxes. If you do, there's something mentally wrong with you. Okay, I'm not going to do my taxes. I'm not going to do my reconciliation of my financial statements. No, I'm not going to do that. No one should want me to do that. I especially don't want me to do that. That's not good for anybody, right? I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I hate going through my statements and going, that's a personal expense, that's a business expense, vomit, vomit, vomit. So that I'm not going to spend my time doing that. She talked about your instincts too. Like don't keep going against your instincts all the time, right? That's not good for you. And then she used the word persona. Don't make up a fake persona because it looks extra metaphysically, or you look more like a Reiki master, or you think that's what an astrologer is supposed to look like. Start what you can maintain. and do your own social media. Her comment was, your insights, your data will always be better when you do your own social media. The tax is like a dumb example because like nobody, I mean, I don't really know anybody who does their own taxes. Everybody goes to like a, there's tax people, right? Tax things online you can do, but I'm just saying like, I'm going to push myself to do a bunch of math. It's just not my thing. Emalea says, what about hiring someone to help us write our social posts because we just aren't great writers and you don't want to rely on ChatGPT? By the way, ChatGPT is great. It's just, but here's the thing, you got to know what a good outcome looks like so that you can evaluate the accuracy. Like you can't just blindly trust AI, right? So that's a long conversation, right? But let me give you some quick tips though on your social posts from your sister, Athena, not your teacher, okay? Less is more. Don't write so much. Your posts that have one sentence, maybe two, are going to do better statistically than anything longer than that. Put your link, so you have to have a call to action, okay? The way my, business school friends talk about it, you got to tell your customers what you want them to do and where you want them to go. What are you supposed to do? Where are you supposed to go? I want you to look at this new class I'm teaching. Here's the link for more information, okay? Tell people what you want them to do and where you want them to go, and stop talking so much. Do you like reading a bunch of copy when you're trying to find a link? Do you just love that? Because nobody loves that, right? So what I tell people is, you know how like you write a social post and it'll say click like read more? If anybody has to click on read more, you already failed. So I'm going to take all your words away, okay, and get to the point. Emojis actually help because emojis stop the line of sight. So it is good to put a little flower or a little circle or a little, but you don't want to overdo the emojis. Again, like what are you doing, right? You've got real estate here. It's a very defined, narrow piece of real estate that you can work with. So you got to follow the rules. Shortened links, bit.ly links are really helpful. So if your URL is www.themagicalmysteries.sexy priestess woman revolution.com / join my new program / I hope you like it / right? Like, no, like then just go get a little tiny, go to bit.ly.com and convert it to a shorter link because the long URLs are a nightmare, right? I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Everything shorter in social media. Less is more. If you're talking too much, it means your content sucks, okay? The content should be what people are focusing on, not your copy. Your copy should tell people what? What are the two things your copy has to do? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? And any other pertinent details. So I want you to go here and do this today. Or maybe it's not today, right? Like maybe you just want me to go there and do this, but the offer ends on this day. Like your discount code expires tomorrow, right? So good social copy would be like save 75% as my student at sagegoddess.com with code MAGIC75. Code expires Wednesday at noon Pacific time. 2 lines. I put the URL up front. You don't have to click to read more. A bad post would say, there are so many beautiful things at sagegoddess.com that I have collected over the years for people just like you because I believe they will help connect you to your spiritual development and your quest for deeper knowledge. Isn't that what we all want at the end of the day, to understand ourselves? And meanwhile, I'm like, what do you want me to do and where do you want me to go? How do I find that stone in the picture? I love you so much, blah, blah, blah. I want that. I want that. And then I click on it and there's nothing there. And then what? Here's the problem. What happens if you click and it doesn't lead anywhere? And the copy doesn't give me a link. What am I going to do? I'm going to forget about you and go look at something else. And I've lost you and you've lost me. And then If you go to boost something like that and you spend $100 to boost it and everybody else leaves too, and you're like, well, nobody came to my website, you shouldn't boost content that doesn't have a punchy, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? And when? I know you feel teased. You're like, okay. And now you're mad, right? So, okay, this is me at 11 o'clock at night. I'm scrolling. Like, oh my God, that jacket is so cute. And I'm reading and it's like site-wide, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, let me find the link. I'm putting my readers on. I'm like, okay, click on the link. And then the link is dead. Don't be careful, make sure your links work. Or there's no link. So now I click on the picture, it doesn't link to anything. So now I'm looking at the company name and I'm opening another tab because I really want this jacket. So like cuteblackjackets.com. Okay, cuteblackjackets.com. And now I'm on the website. There's nothing that looks like that jacket. If I really want that jacket, I'm going to search a little bit and then I'm going to give up. And now I'm mad because I spent 15 minutes looking for something that they want to sell me. And we were like this, right? So all of that, or recipes, right? Like when I finally get my cooking stuff situated, you should get the recipe for free right at the top of the post. No, like link here, click here, open external browser. If you got to go through 9 mazes, what's your child's middle name? Like what? I just want to cook the fucking meal. Like just give me the recipe. Give it to me right at the beginning. I don't want to go to your link in bio. And your link in bio says, click here for recipes. Now I click on recipes, poultry, beef, veg. It's just like, you know what? Just what? And maybe I'm a spicy enchilada, so maybe I have less of an attention span. But I think I'm pretty much just like you when it comes to all of this stuff. What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? How long do I have to get there? Tell me what to do. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to buy. Tell me when to buy it, right? Elena said it very well. There's nothing worse than losing customers you already have. But you know what? You can lose them. That's a good place to sort of wrap up our conversation for tonight. I hope this was a fun class for you, by the way, because I had fun putting it together for you and having good conversations to get here. You can lose your customers. You are always earning your relationships. You can lose a partner. You can lose relationships with your children. Like I see myself as someone who, like invests, right? In time and energy and love and care and commitment. You sure can lose your customers. So that's why like you got to have your fingertips on everything. You start outsourcing things, leaving things to other people, letting things go. It sucks, right? So I'm so glad. And so hopefully you see how at the end of this class, I'm coming back to kind of the beginning of where we started, trying to practice what I preach. No more 10-minute video ads and stuff like that. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing with all that? Would you or one of your friends ever do a social media audit? Do you mean like evaluate people's social media? I mean, maybe. Here's the thing, though. I think all of us would agree, based on my conversations, that we don't necessarily know what's working for someone. All of us are very similar people. So even though they're in different spaces in the work that they do, we're kind of like friendly, right? So similar in certain ways, even though we're different people. But I don't know. It would be hard for me to say, oh, I don't think this is great, but it might be really working for that person. So it's hard to say. But I do think that there's some pretty consistent themes if you look at what's working across the board statistically. And where you see me going all the time is I go back to psychology, I go back to sociology, I go back to data, right? You're never going to go wrong reinforcing the things in your business that gain trust and establish connections with people, because people want to be loved as they are. People want to feel like they are competent, right? You don't want to make people feel stupid. You don't want to make people feel unseen. You don't want to make people feel unappreciated, right? So like, these are very basic things that very successful people do. They don't insult your intelligence. They make you feel part of the process of what you're doing. So they have a little bit of a connection and attachment and investment, right? So when you're not doing that, you're off task, right? And if you start doing it, but you're not consistent, then people are going to wonder, if they can continue to invest in you with good faith. So, what you feed grows and what you starve doesn't. That's exactly right, Linda. I mean, it's a very eloquent way of saying you have finite resources. I know you're magical, but you're in a meat suit and you need sleep and food, right? So that makes you finite. And so taking that finity of yours and making sure that the investments that you're making are the most worthwhile so that you can also enjoy your life and your time is really important. I love you guys too. Yeah. Well, you want to, and that's very true. You want to create stakeholders. But again, if I've done anything right and well, I have always put my community first, even right down to, my intentionality for Sage Goddess right now. Like, if I'm somebody who's been following this brand and continue to have confidence in it, despite the shit show it's been for the last 2 years, what do I expect? I expect to be respected. Coming back and finishing Apothecary, you know what I mean, was the right thing to do. And honoring the commitment of people who already invested in it was the right thing to do. So there are certain things you're going to do. Like, I had one of my friends was like, you took on that extra commitment. And I'm like, it was the right thing to do. Like, there's no discussion about that. Right. So it's worthwhile in the bigger picture to sometimes do things that people might say, well, why would you do that? Or because it's what I would expect. And if I saw someone doing that, I'd be like, well, she came back, she did the right thing. So cheers to that. We get to do the right thing together tomorrow night. But I'm actually having a blast. It also was a gift to myself to come back and finish what I started and, that Spirit put in my hands those years ago. So cheers for that. Yeah, love you too, Diet Dr. Pepper. Cheers to you this evening. So order of operations, if you do want anything at sagegoddess.com, now's a real good time to get it. So Magic75 is your code for 75% off. Please don't share that. It's not public. Ends tomorrow at noon. What else do you need to know? Apothecary is tomorrow if you have class with me. Thursday is live gem show with me and Robin. And I've got some really special things that I gathered myself for this sale. She's put a beautiful list of goodies together. And then Friday is Layer Live with me and Lee from 4 to 6 to make up for not being with you live last week. And that's all I got for you right now. Then we'll get to the weekend. We'll figure everything out. So enjoy your evening. Thank you for being here. Seriously, I tagged you in the group today and we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, but we are going to go back to the thread where you can share your businesses and your what you're working on right now so that everybody can see. And so we will create that for you. And I think that's great. And I also like to see your progress and hear how things are going for you. So thank you for continuing to share. And we'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your evening, everybody.